Welcome to the channel for another exciting video. Most people who watch our videos aren't subscribed, so I kindly ask you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new content. Your like is essential for YouTube to understand that this content is relevant, so please like, share, and leave your comment. Now, let's get to the story. The afternoon at St. Vincent's Hospital in New York was marked by the usual tranquility, with the soft humming of machines and the distant murmur of conversations among nurses and doctors. Sunlight filtered through the windows, illuminating the clean, white corridors of the hospital. However, the peace was abruptly interrupted when an echo of screams pierced the air, followed by a wave of commotion that swept through the environment. Thor, a pit bull with a shiny coat and imposing musculature, was in his usual spot near the entrance of the emergency room. The dog, trained to protect and comfort patients, began to growl fiercely. His eyes were fixed on Claire, a well-dressed businesswoman crossing the corridor. She was holding a suspicious briefcase, an object that seemed out of place in the hospital setting. Her presence, in a space where trust and compassion should reign, triggered Thor's protective instinct. "Calm down, Thor." "What's wrong with you?" said Jason, a nurse who had always had a special bond with the dog. He approached, trying to calm him down, but Thor remained on high alert, muscles tense and piercing gaze fixed on Claire. "She's not a threat," Jason tried to justify, but Thor's reaction contradicted his words. Claire, noticing the unwanted attention from the dog, hesitated. "What's wrong with this animal? It looks crazy," she exclaimed, her tone mixing surprise and disdain. Meanwhile, the corridor began to fill with doctors and security personnel, drawn by the screams and commotion. "Step away from her, Thor," shouted one of the security guards, who had already heard rumors about the woman now at the center of the chaos. He didn't know what was happening, but the tension in the air was palpable. Claire, realizing that the situation was spiraling out of control, tried to back away, but the dog's instinct followed her. Thor lunged forward, growling more intensely, as if trying to protect not just himself but also those around him. "I need help here," a doctor shouted, trying to maintain control of the situation. "She might be armed." The medical team, accustomed to dealing with emergencies, now found themselves facing an unexpected and chaotic scenario. Claire, realizing that the situation was not in her favor, decided to act. With a swift movement, she opened the briefcase, revealing a series of documents and equipment that seemed more appropriate for a crime than for a hospital. "Don't come any closer." "I know what I'm doing," she shouted, her voice trembling with anger and desperation. At that moment, Thor did not hesitate. With an agile leap, he positioned himself between Claire and Jason, showing his teeth and emitting a deep growl that echoed through the corridor. The intensity of the pit bull's gaze made some of the staff hesitate, unsure whether to advance or retreat. "Thor, no, stay calm," Jason pleaded, his voice firm but full of concern. He knew the dog was only trying to protect him, but the situation was about to explode. The atmosphere grew increasingly tense, and Thor's growl reverberated like an imminent warning. The scene was captured by security cameras, recording every movement, every reaction. Adrenaline was at its peak, and uncertainty hung over everyone like a shadow. The hospital, a place of healing, was now becoming the setting for an unexpected drama, where loyalty and protective instinct clashed with the threat of a woman who seemed to have more ulterior motives than one could imagine. After the chaos caused by Thor's attack, the hospital, once a place of healing and tranquility, was now shrouded in a climate of tension and uncertainty. The doctors gathered in the conference room, voices low and faces heavy with concern. Among them was Dr. Harris, a respected cardiologist who began the meeting. "We need to understand what prompted Thor to attack Claire," Dr. Harris said, looking at his colleagues. "He's never been aggressive before." "What was in the briefcase she was carrying?" Dr. Mendez, a neurologist, frowned. "We need to remember that Thor is here to protect. He may have sensed something that we couldn't perceive, an animal instinct that escapes us." Jason, the nurse who had a strong bond with Thor, sat in a corner of the table, his gaze distant. "I saw the way Claire approached him. There was something in her posture, as if she were challenging him," he said, breaking the silence. "And when she opened the briefcase, Thor reacted immediately. There, at the back of the room, Lisa, a nurse known for her intuition, raised her hand. I couldn't hear what happened, but I saw how she looked at Thor. There was disdain, and disdain is something that the animal feels. He may have interpreted that as a threat. Dr. Harris nodded, reflecting on Lisa's words. We need to find out more about this woman. Who is she really? We can't let this go unnoticed. After several minutes of heated discussions, the team decided it was time to investigate Claire's identity. Jason and Lisa exchanged glances, both feeling compelled to learn more about the woman who had caused the turmoil. During a break, as the other doctors left the room, Jason approached Lisa. Do you think we should check the security cameras? There might be something that helps us understand the situation. Certainly, Lisa replied, determined. We can't let this situation happen again. Thor may have acted on instinct, but we need concrete answers. The duo decided to go to the hospital's IT department, where the recordings were stored. The environment was quiet except for the faint hum of the equipment. Jason sat in front of one of the monitors and began searching for the recordings from the time of the attack. Look, here it is, he said, pointing at the screen. The footage showed Thor growling at Claire, who was standing in the hallway with the suitcase. The tension was palpable, and Claire's expression was cold and disdainful. She was provoking Thor, Lisa noted, crossing her arms. There was something about the way she behaved that didn't seem right. We need to know more, Jason insisted, his mind swirling with possibilities. I'm going to ask some of the security guards if they recognized her. There might be information about her past. Lisa nodded. I'll also see if I can access admission records. Someone must have noted her name. As they separated to conduct their investigations, Jason couldn't shake the image of Claire from his mind. There was something about her presence that felt out of place. He remembered an old case involving a patient who had been involved in illegal activities and also had a connection to the hospital. Maybe this isn't an isolated case, he thought. Later, when Jason met back up with Lisa, their faces were filled with a new determination. I spoke with one of the security guards. He mentioned he saw Claire with a group of people who are known to be involved in suspicious activities, he said in a low voice. This is very concerning, Lisa said, her gaze sharpening. We need to find out everything we can. If Claire is really linked to a criminal network, this could be much more serious than we imagined. Let's investigate further, Jason replied, feeling adrenaline course through his veins. They were about to get involved in something much bigger than they could imagine. And in the back of his mind, he wondered if Thor, with his protective instinct, could be the key to unraveling this entire mystery. Lisa was on duty in the ward when she noticed something peculiar. Claire, the woman involved in the commotion the day before, was talking to Dr. Reynolds, one of the hospital's most respected doctors. The way Claire leaned in and gestured seemed uncomfortable to Lisa, who had already sensed a certain air of tension during the interaction. She observed from afar, her sharpened instincts alerting her to something that didn't seem right. Jason, did you see how Claire was behaving with Dr. Reynolds? Lisa called to the nurse who was passing by with a medication cart. He stopped, looking at where she pointed. No, I didn't pay attention. What happened? He asked, curious. She was too close to him, as if she were trying to convince him of something. And that smile? I don't know. It seemed forced, Lisa said, frowning. I just don't trust her. Jason crossed his arms, thoughtful. You're right. Something doesn't add up. I'll ask Dr. Reynolds about it later. Let's find out more about this woman. With a nod, Lisa agreed. What if we started investigating her past? Sometimes old information can help us understand someone's intentions. Good idea, Jason replied, already thinking about how they might proceed. We can access the hospital's record system. How about we check her interactions with other patients and staff members? Lisa smiled, excited about the partnership. Perfect. I'll do that right now. The two quickly headed to the electronic records room. Once they arrived, Lisa began typing on the computer while Jason reviewed some files by hand. The tension in the room seemed to mount as the minutes passed, each of them eager to learn more about Claire. Look at this, Lisa exclaimed, her voice echoing in the quiet space. She appears here in a record of a patient who was admitted after an overdose. The patient had connections to a criminal group being investigated by the police. This is concerning, Jason said, running his hand through his hair. Maybe Claire isn't just a businesswoman, but someone who is somehow involved in illegal activities. And this connection to the patient may not be a coincidence, Lisa added, typing more information. Let's see if we can find more data. If she is really getting involved in something criminal, we need to alert others. As they continued their research, Lisa found a series of images of Claire at social events. Some of them showed the woman alongside individuals known for their illicit activities. Jason, look at this. She was at a charity dinner with people who have a criminal history. Look at those faces, she said, pointing at the screen. This is a clear sign that she is associating with the wrong crowd, Jason replied, his expression turning serious. We need to act quickly. If the team finds out what we're investigating, it could ruin everything. The adrenaline began to flow in Lisa's veins. What if she is here for something more nefarious? We need to keep an eye on her. We can't let any details slip by. I agree. Let's share this information with the team. We can't risk her having allies inside the hospital, Jason said, determined. As the two continued to discuss their findings, a shadow passed through the door. It was Claire who, seeming oblivious to what was happening, entered the office with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Hi, everyone. What are you so focused on? She asked, her voice sweet and inviting. Lisa and Jason exchanged quick glances, a spark of concern pulsing between them. Just reviewing some records, Jason replied, trying to maintain his composure. And you, Claire? How are you feeling after yesterday's incident? Oh, don't worry about me. I'm a survivor. Claire smiled, but there was something nervous in her gaze. Lisa noticed a glimmer of challenge, as if Claire knew more than she was letting on. It's good to hear that, Lisa said, trying to hide her discomfort. As soon as Claire walked away, the two exchanged worried glances again. We need to be cautious. She noticed that we're keeping an eye on her, Jason whispered. Let's continue the investigation without her knowing. Sure, Lisa replied, her heart racing. We're just getting started. The atmosphere at St. Vincent's Hospital was tense, as if a storm was about to break. After Thor's attack on Claire, whispers among the staff became more frequent, and distrust began to hang over everyone. Deep in thought, Jason and Lisa found themselves in the break room, away from prying eyes. Did you notice how people are talking about Dr. Walker? Lisa commented, nervously stirring her coffee. I think he's becoming the target this time. Yeah, I've heard some conversations. No one is saying anything directly, but you can feel the distrust in the air, Jason replied, his gaze fixed on the window. It's like Claire's shadow has spread around here, affecting everything and everyone. Lisa sighed, her gaze lost in the green leaves swaying in the wind. We need to do something. We can't let this happen. Dr. Walker doesn't deserve this. Jason agreed, but his mind was more focused on Thor and what had happened. I'm going to see if I can find any clues about Claire. Something that can help us understand what's going on. What do you think? Great idea. I'll see if I can access her records. Maybe there's something that doesn't fit with the information we have, Lisa suggested, already getting up from the table, determined to act. As they separated, Jason felt an increasing need to understand the connection between Claire and Thor's attack. He headed to the file room, a dusty, forgotten place where the hospital's memories were carelessly stored. The shelves were filled with folders and documents, and the dim lighting only added to the atmosphere of mystery. As he examined the files, something caught his attention. He found a document with Claire's name in bold letters. With his heart racing, he pulled out the folder and began to read. The content revealed a series of suspicious connections between Claire and individuals with criminal backgrounds. Unbelievable, he murmured to himself. She was involved in something much more serious than we imagined. At that moment, Lisa entered the room, a look of relief on her face. Jason, you won't believe what I found. She held a folder, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Claire had a series of strange transactions with a group that is being investigated for corruption. And there's more. I found documents linking her to a scheme within the hospital. Jason turned quickly, his heart pounding. What are you saying? Claire was trying to corrupt people here. It seems so. She was trying to entangle some of the doctors in a plan to divert funds. I can't believe she has stooped to this level, Lisa replied, her voice laden with disbelief. We need to tell someone. We need to act fast before this reaches the wrong ears, Jason said, his mind racing with the implications of what they had discovered. If Dr. Walker is involved, he will need our help. Just then, Thor entered the room, as if sensing the tension in the air. The pit bull approached Jason, softly growling, seeking comfort. Jason crouched down and petted the dog's head, feeling reassured by his presence. Easy, Thor. We're just trying to understand what's going on. Lisa watched the interaction between the two and smiled. You and Thor have an incredible connection. He senses when you're worried. He has always been by my side during tough times. And now, more than ever, we need him, Jason replied, giving Thor a pat on the back as he settled beside him. So, what are we going to do now? Lisa asked, determined. We can't just stand by while this happens. Let's gather all the information we have and bring the truth to light. We need to be cautious, but we can't let this corruption spread through the hospital. Dr. Walker's reputation is at stake, and he doesn't deserve to be treated this way, Jason decided, his voice firm. I agree. We have to act, and quickly. Let's investigate further and then decide how to move forward, Lisa said, her determination renewed. The two left the room, ready to face the challenges ahead, determined to protect their hospital and the truth it represented. Thor, by Jason's side, seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. His protective instinct awakened once again. The atmosphere at St. Vincent's Hospital became unbearable. Whispers in the hallways grew louder, and the once united staff exchanged suspicious glances. Jason and Lisa walked together down the hallway, the tension between them palpable. Did you hear what they said about Dr. Walker? Lisa murmured, glancing around as if fearing to be overheard. They say he was involved in something dirty, that he was the one who covered up Thor's attack. Jason shook his head, frustrated. That doesn't make sense. Dr. Walker is one of the most respected doctors here. He has always cared about the patients and the staff. Lisa stopped in front of a door and looked at him. But what if all of this is part of a bigger plan? What if Claire wasn't alone in this? What if she had allies within the hospital? You're saying she might have manipulated all of this. But for what? Jason's expression was one of disbelief. We need more evidence before accusing someone without basis. As they talked, they passed by a break room where some team members were gathered, whispering. Suspicion hung in the air like a dark cloud about to burst. We need to investigate, Lisa said, determined. We can't let this situation escalate. What if there's something more in her notebook? Do you think Claire has a diary? Jason asked, intrigued. Maybe not a diary, but documents, something that could give us a glimpse of what she's really doing here. Lisa started to walk away, but Jason grabbed her arm. Wait, let's proceed with caution. It could be dangerous. I know, but I can feel we're close to something big. They then decided to explore Claire's office for clues. The duo gained access to the place during visiting hours. The room was quiet, with the smell of fresh coffee lingering in the air. Lisa walked over to Claire's desk, examining every detail. Here, she said, pointing to a folder that was half open. Look at this. Inside the folder, they found documents that seemed to be records of financial transactions, some with names that Jason and Lisa didn't recognize. These names don't seem to belong to patients, Jason commented, frowning. It looks like Claire was involved in something much bigger than we imagined. Wait a moment, Lisa said, pulling out a piece of paper that was stuck at the bottom of the folder. This is a list of staff, and here's Dr. Walker's name. Jason paled. What does this mean? Was she planning to frame him? If this is true, we need to act fast. We have to take this to the police. Yes, but we need to be cautious. We don't know how far this web of corruption goes and who else might be involved. As they examined the documents, Jason found a small diary hidden under the desk. Look at this, he said, opening the pages. It has notes about Dr. Walker and detailed plans to frame him. Lisa looked at him, her eyes wide. This is more than enough. We need to go now. Be careful. If anyone finds out we're here, it could end badly, he warned, looking at the door. Don't worry. We have to go. The truth needs to come to light before it's too late, Lisa replied, determined. With their hearts racing, they left Claire's office, the documents and the diary in hand, ready to face whatever came next. The adrenaline surged through their veins, and the certainty that they were close to uncovering a major scheme drove them forward, despite the fear that was beginning to settle in their hearts. Justice needed to be served, and they were determined to fight for it. The atmosphere in St. Vincent's Hospital was heavy, as if a storm was about to form. Jason and Lisa, after days of investigation, felt increasingly surrounded by the tension surrounding Claire and her accomplices. With every step they took, the feeling of being watched intensified. As they walked through the halls, Jason suddenly stopped, his eyes fixed on a group of men talking in a corner. "Lisa, did you notice that guy? The one in the black jacket?" He nodded toward the group where a man with an intense gaze seemed to be watching them. "I think he's following us." Lisa discreetly looked at the man Jason pointed out. "Yes, he seems suspicious. We need to be careful. If Claire has allies here, that could complicate things." She felt a chill in her stomach at the thought of the possible consequences of their investigation. "Let's move away and talk in a safer place," Jason suggested, pulling Lisa into a less crowded hallway. As soon as they entered a more private space, the tension between them intensified. "We need to alert the police before it's too late." Lisa paused, her expression worried. "What if they're in Claire's hands?" "We can't take that risk. We need concrete evidence first. That man could be one of her accomplices." On the other side of the hospital, Thor, the pit bull, was restless. He sensed the tension in the air, which put him on high alert. The dog's protective instincts intensified as he noticed the strange, threatening presence. As Jason and Lisa moved away, Thor decided to follow his nurse friend and the nurse he admired so much. He felt they were in danger and didn't want to let anything happen to them. Meanwhile, Claire was in a nearby room, talking to one of her accomplices. "We need to act fast. They're starting to investigate us. If they find out what we're doing, it will all be lost," she said, her voice low and tense. "Do whatever it takes to get rid of them. I can't be caught." The accomplice nodded, a determined expression on his face. "Leave it to me. I'll find a way to intimidate them." Back in the hallway, Jason and Lisa were determined to act. "We need to find something that proves her involvement before she can escape," Jason stated, clenching his fists. "We could check her office again." "I agree." Lisa looked around, making sure no one was listening to them. "But we have to be quick. If her plan is really to frame Dr. Walker, we need to prevent that from happening." However, as they discussed, Claire's accomplice spotted them. He approached, stepping into the hallway and blocking the exit. "What are you doing here, nurses?" His voice was laden with threats, and his piercing gaze sent a chill down Lisa's spine. Jason, recognizing the situation, tried to remain calm. "We're just checking a few things, nothing major," he replied, his tone firm but cautious. "You have nothing to do with this, right?" The man laughed sarcastically. "Oh, but I have everything to do with this. And you'd better stay away from Claire, or you'll regret it." He stepped forward, his imposing presence making Jason and Lisa feel cornered. Thor, who had followed Jason and Lisa into the hallway, growled fiercely, positioning himself between them and the accomplice. The dog was ready to defend his friends at all costs. "Thor, stay!" Jason shouted, but the pit bull did not back down, his protective instincts heightened, ready to act. "You better get out of my way, dog," the accomplice threatened, stepping forward, but Thor did not move. He growled even louder, showing his teeth, as if to say he wouldn't hesitate to attack. The tension hung in the air, and Lisa felt her heart race. "We need help, Jason," she whispered, looking sideways. "If not, we're lost." "I'll call hospital security," Jason replied, pulling out his cell phone, but the accomplice moved in, determined not to let them escape. "You're not leaving here," he said, a menacing glint in his eyes. The situation was about to explode, and Jason's and Lisa's courage would be tested like never before. Jason and Lisa were in a corner of the hospital, the tension palpable in the air. The noise from the hallway echoed in the background, but their minds were far from the usual routine of St. Vincent's Hospital. They had met with the police in a stark meeting room, where the murmur of voices mingled with the sound of papers being shuffled. With every passing moment, the urgency increased. Claire was on the move, and they needed to act fast. "If she escapes, all of this will be in vain," Lisa said, looking into Jason's worried eyes. "We need to present this evidence immediately. I know, but we need to be cautious. Claire has allies. If they tip her off, she could disappear," Jason replied, his expression reflecting the gravity of the situation. He looked out the window, watching the hospital bustle. The lights flickered, and police sirens echoed in the distance. Meanwhile, Thor, the pit bull, was with Jason. He sensed the agitation and approached, resting his head on his owner's lap, as if he could feel the anxiety in the air. "Calm down, Thor. We're almost there," Jason murmured, petting the dog. The animal's presence brought a bit of comfort amid the chaos. Suddenly, the door swung open, and one of the police officers entered, his expression one of determination. "We're ready to hear what you have. Claire cannot be left free to continue with her plans. She's trying to frame Dr. Walker," Lisa explained quickly. "We found documents linking her to a corruption scheme. We need to act before she can escape." As the conversation continued, Jason felt a chill run down his spine. He looked at Thor, who was on alert, muscles tense. "It's okay, Thor," Jason whispered, but the dog didn't seem convinced. He growled softly, a warning that something was off. "You sense something, don't you?" Jason asked, looking into the pit bull's eyes. Thor licked his lips, still watching the door. The animal's protective instinct was heightened, and Jason realized that Thor sensed an imminent threat. "We need to hurry. Claire could be here at any moment," the officer said. Jason and Lisa agreed, but before they could get up, the door burst open again, this time with a crash. A tall man wearing a hood entered the room, and the tension instantly escalated. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low and threatening. "Claire isn't the only one with allies." Jason stood up, placing himself between Lisa and the intruder. "Get out of our way," he demanded, his heart racing. Thor went into attack mode, hair on his neck bristling, ready to defend his friend. "Don't interfere. This is not your business," the man retorted, advancing. He seemed determined, and the atmosphere grew unbearable. "Thor!" Jason shouted, and the pit bull lunged forward, growling, his imposing presence filling the room. The man hesitated, intimidated by the dog's ferocity. "Do you really think you can intimidate us?" Lisa challenged, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Claire is in trouble, and we have everything we need to take down this scheme." The man let out a sarcastic laugh. "You're in a world you don't understand. Claire isn't the only one playing this game. Get out now or—" Jason began. But Thor interrupted, taking another step forward, showing his teeth. The dog's growl was a clear warning, and the intruder began to back off. "Watch what you do," Jason said, his voice firm. "We're calling the police, and you won't get away with this." The man's eyes flashed with anger, but he realized he was at a disadvantage. With one last threatening glance, he turned and left the room, the door slamming behind him. That was close. Lisa sighed, still trembling. "We need to inform the officers immediately. He's here to protect Claire." "Yes, and we know she won't back down so easily," Jason agreed, already reaching for the phone. Thor, still on alert, approached Jason, seeking comfort. The pit bull knew the battle was far from over, but the loyalty and protection he offered Jason were unwavering. "Let's end this once and for all," Jason said, determined. He knew the truth was on their side, and with Thor and Lisa's help, they were ready to face any challenge that came their way. The hospital lights flickered as the security team prepared to display the camera footage, which could be the key to unraveling Claire's schemes. Jason and Lisa, nervous, positioned themselves next to one of the monitors. The room was filled with doctors, nurses, and security personnel, all with expressions of anticipation and apprehension. "I hope this shows the truth," Lisa murmured, her eyes fixed on the screen. "If Claire is really behind all this, we need everyone to see it." Jason nodded, his heart pounding. "She might have friends here, so we need to be ready for any reaction." The security personnel pressed the buttons, and the recording began to play. The screen lit up with images of the hospital corridor. Everyone watched in silence as the events of that fateful afternoon unfolded before them. The first scene showed Thor, the pit bull, charging towards Claire. The animal was alert, its protective instincts flaring. Thor's fierce growl echoed through the room, sending chills down the spines of some present. "Look at him," a doctor commented. He knew something was wrong. The footage continued, and soon everyone could see Claire holding the suspicious briefcase. The atmosphere was tense, and the voices of the doctors and nurses fell silent when the attack occurred. Claire, in a quick and stealthy movement, seemed to try to escape, but Thor was determined to protect them. The crowd in the room watched, unable to believe what they were seeing, and the tension increased with each passing second. "What a desperate move," a nurse whispered, shaking his head in disbelief. She was willing to do anything. The recording showed the chaos that ensued, with doctors and security trying to control the situation. The sounds of panic and screams echoed, and the image of Thor fighting against the threat was a powerful testament to his loyalty. With an agile movement, he lunged at Claire while the security personnel tried to subdue her. The screen was filled with action, and the audience watched, absorbing every detail. "This is impressive," Jason said, unable to take his eyes off the screen. Thor not only protected everyone, but also prevented her from causing more harm. Finally, the recording reached the crucial moment. Claire, surrounded and desperate, was captured. The image froze on her face of panic and betrayal, and a murmur swept through the room. Reactions varied. Some showed anger, while others were simply stunned. "She deceived all of us," Lisa said, her voice firm but with a hint of disbelief. "I never imagined someone so close could be capable of this." With the recording finished, the silence in the room was palpable. The truth had been revealed, but the fight was far from over. Jason turned to the security team, his expression determined. "We need to act fast. If Claire still has allies, they won't give up easily." Dr. Walker, who had been observing everything with a serious expression, finally broke the silence. "We need to alert the police immediately. We can't allow this network of corruption to spread any further." Walker's words echoed in everyone's minds. The tension in the air was almost unbearable, but there was also a feeling of relief at the same time. The truth was now exposed, and with it, a new hope began to emerge. Meanwhile, outside, the city was starting to stir with news of the scandal. Lisa's phone rang insistently, and she answered quickly. "We need a backup team here. The situation is about to get even more complicated." With the recordings and evidence in hand, the team was ready to face the next chapter of this drama. But there was a unanimous feeling. Thor's loyalty not only saved lives, but also brought to light the truth that was hidden beneath layers of lies. And as reality unfolded, Jason felt a deep pride for his canine friend, who, with his protective instinct, had become the true hero of that story. The atmosphere in the auditorium of St. Vincent's Hospital was one of celebration. The white walls, once cold and impersonal, were adorned with blue and white balloons, while an improvised banner displayed in bold letters, "Tribute to Hero Thor." The environment pulsed with renewed energy. The hospital staff gathered, sharing laughter and stories about the recent events that culminated in the dismantling of a criminal network. Jason, with a broad smile, watched Thor, who stood out among the guests, his coat shining under the lights of the auditorium. The pit bull, ever alert and protective, seemed to understand the importance of the moment. Beside him, Lisa approached and, with an admiring look, commented, "Look at how he behaves. Jason. It's as if he knows he's the center of attention. He really is a hero, Lisa," Jason replied, petting the dog's head. "Without him, we might not have uncovered that whole plot." As the ceremony began, the hospital director took the stage, adjusting his glasses and looking at the crowd with gratitude. "Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we are here to recognize not only the bravery of our dear Thor, but also the determination of our colleagues, Jason and Lisa, who did not hesitate to seek the truth. What happened here recently was not just an attack, but a call for all of us to remain vigilant." Applause echoed throughout the auditorium, and Jason felt a warmth in his heart upon hearing his name. He never imagined he would one day receive recognition for his actions. Lisa, by his side, whispered, "You deserve this, Jason. Your courage made a difference." The director continued, "Loyalty and truth are principles we must always value in our work. And today, as we celebrate the recovery of Dr. Walker and the security of our hospital, we must remember that unity is our greatest strength." When the director finished, he called Jason and Lisa to the stage. They exchanged glances, a mix of nervousness and joy overtaking them. As they ascended, the crowd applauded them standing. Jason, holding Thor's leash, felt the weight of responsibility in his words. "First of all, I would like to thank all of you," Jason began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "What we have experienced in the past few days has been intense and challenging, But it has also shown us the importance of being together. Thor is not just a protection dog. He is a symbol of what it means to defend those we love. Lisa took the microphone and, with a warm smile, added, "That's true. Each of us in this hospital plays a crucial role in protecting the lives and health of our patients. We must always support one another because when we stand united, we are stronger." The applause grew louder, and Thor, sensing the excitement, began to wag his tail as if he were participating in the celebration. He looked at Jason as if he were aware that he was an important part of this story. After the speech, the director presented Jason and Lisa with recognition plaques. For Thor, there was a special award, a medal that shone under the auditorium lights. The dog, with a curious and attentive expression, accepted it with a satisfied look while the audience laughed and applauded. "You are a hero, Thor," someone shouted from the crowd, and the pit bull, proud, seemed to stretch even further as if he wanted to show that he was ready for any challenge. Jason, emotional, looked at Thor and said, "You are more than a friend. You are part of our family. Thank you for always being by my side." Lisa agreed, petting the dog affectionately. "You have taught us that protection and loyalty go far beyond words." The celebration continued with laughter, music, and a renewed sense of hope. That union, forged by challenges, solidified bonds among the team members. As Jason and Lisa and Thor exchanged glances, a new chapter opened, filled with promises and an unwavering commitment to truth and friendship. During the celebration marking Dr. Walker's reputation recovery, the atmosphere was one of relief and joy in the hospital. The team gathered in a large hall decorated with balloons and banners that exalted truth and justice. Jason, Lisa, and Thor were at the center of attention, receiving warm applause. However, a shadow loomed over the festivities, a mystery that still needed to be revealed. Jason, with a serious expression, addressed the crowd. "Folks, before we continue the party, I need to share something that has been troubling me." Claire did not act alone. There was a mysterious figure behind her. A murmur swept through the room as everyone turned to him, intrigued. Lisa, beside him, furrowed her brow. "What do you mean, Jason? Do you know who this person is?" "Yes," Jason replied, looking at the audience. "In fact, a few days ago, while we were examining Claire's documents, I found a name that didn't make sense. A colleague of ours, someone everyone respects, was involved in this entire plot." The tension in the air increased, and Thor, sensing the unease, positioned himself next to Jason as if ready to protect his friend from any threat. "Who is it?" one of the nurses asked, his voice filled with anxiety. "It's Dr. Harrison," Jason revealed. He was manipulating Claire, using her as a pawn in his corruption game. He had financial interests in the illegal activities she was promoting. The revelation caused an uproar in the room. Murmurs of shock and disbelief spread among those present. Lisa looked at Jason with wide eyes. "Are you sure about this? Dr. Harrison is one of the best doctors here." "I know it sounds unbelievable," Jason replied, "but the evidence is there. We need to act quickly and dismantle this network before they can escape. Let's go after him," Lisa said, determined. "We can't let him hide behind our trust. The truth must prevail." In the next moment, the team organized themselves. With Thor leading the way, they headed to Dr. Harrison's office. The atmosphere was charged with tension, but Jason and Lisa's determination lit the path. When they arrived, they found the door ajar. "He might be in there," Lisa whispered as Jason slowly pushed the door open. Inside the office, and they found Dr. Harrison sitting at the desk, calm but with treacherous eyes. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice smooth but with a touch of venom. "We are here to talk about Claire and her involvement in corruption," Jason replied, stepping forward. "We know you are behind this, manipulating everything." The doctor smiled, but there was no joy in his smile. "Do you really think you can intimidate me? I am above you, and the truth you seek will not change that." "That's what we're going to find out," Lisa retorted confidently. "The police are already on their way. You will not escape." At that moment, Thor, sensing the rising tension, growled, positioning himself between Jason, Lisa, and Dr. Harrison like a true guardian. The doctor hesitated, realizing the pit bull's ferocity. "Do you think a dog can protect me?" "That's ridiculous. He's not here to protect you, but to protect us, Jason replied, still firm, and you will be held accountable for your actions. The police arrived shortly after Dassing, and the room filled with the necessary authority. Dr. Harrison, realizing there was no way out, tried to argue, but his voice faded in the face of the evidence presented. The security footage and the documents that Jason and Lisa found were enough to incriminate him. "Let's dismantle this network together," said one of the officers as he took Dr. Harrison into custody. The hospital team, united and determined, breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that the truth had prevailed. In the celebration that followed, Jason, Lisa, and Thor were surrounded by grateful colleagues. People came together, celebrating not only justice, but also the strength of friendship and loyalty that had emerged amid adversity. The hospital had become a safer place, and the team was stronger than ever. "We're in this together," Lisa said, looking into Jason's eyes as Thor nestled between them, a symbol of the protection and truth that would always prevail. "So, what did you think of this story? Your opinion is essential for us to improve our content. Write what you thought in the comments and remember to subscribe and like this video. Thank you for your attention, and see you in the next video.